Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, Official Vader. Today I'll be discussing the canon content during the era of the Republic, aka the era of episodes 1 through 3, the prequels. I am a big prequel fan myself. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars film, so I'm excited to explore this part of the timeline with you all. Before we get started, I just wanted to clarify that I will be omitting some comic series in this video, particularly Star Wars Adventures series. It's because every issue pretty much takes place in a different era. And the other comic series I won't be including in today's video is the Age of series, which are the Age of Republic, Age of Rebellion, and Age of Resistance. They were 8 issues each, 4 heroes, 4 villains per era. I believe the heroes and villains for the Republic side were Obi-Wan, Anakin, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Padme, and then the villains, General Grievous, Jango Fett, Dooku, and I believe Maul also had one. Moving on from that, as you see on the screen here, there's a key, the timeline, BBY, ABY. The films, the shows, and the video games all have logos. Short stories, which I believe there's no short stories in this specific era that we're getting into today. That would be green. Comics are going to be in red. Novels are going to be in purple. The novels also include the Del Rey published novels and then the Disney Lucasfilm Press published novels. So the Disney Lucasfilm are really the young adult novels, but I consider them the same thing. The young adult just really means that it's based on characters who are teenagers going through, which is pretty much Star Wars. Anakin, Luke, and Rey are all 19 years old in their first movies, other than Anakin, episode 2. He was 19. And then the additional events are in light blue. So with all of that out of the way, we get to our first chronological story, which is Star Wars Dooku Jedi Lost. It is an audiobook, the first of its kind, and they also printed a book version, so you can read that if you want to follow along with the script, and you can also listen to it. I listened to it. I might want to read it again. And it's about Dooku's past. He's talking to Ventress in the future, before he takes her on as apprentice, about his past. And that's how you get this story. If you're a Dooku fan, definitely check it out. Got some Qui-Gon cameos, Obi-Wan cameos. Definitely interesting story. Next we have the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. These books have not come out yet. We just know that we are getting a trilogy. The first book is coming out later this year, called Chaos Rising, and it's going to be about Thrawn in the Chiss Ascendancy before he becomes a Grand Admiral in the Empire. Next we have Jedi Fallen Order Dark Temple. This is a prequel to Jedi Fallen Order the video game. It stars Seer Junda as a Padawan and her master Eno Cordova. Again, this doesn't have a specific year where it takes place. I just put it all the way at the far end with Jedi Lost and the Ascendancy trilogy because they're the oldest stories that we have so far. Finally, getting into the specific dates of the timeline, we have the birth of Anakin Skywalker, which is very fitting, the central character of the Skywalker saga. He was born in 41 BBY because he's 9 in The Phantom Menace, which is 32 BBY. And then a year after that, we get our first big Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon novel written by Claudia Gray, Master and Apprentice. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are butting heads. Obi-Wan's only 17. Very cool story. I love the interactions between them. Rael Averross from Jedi Lost makes a cameo, so those two stories kind of go together with one another. Definitely recommend checking out that novel. This story that takes place a little bit before Phantom Menace, not really specified when it does take place, is Darth Maul, a 5-issue mini comic series centered on Maul, and he is kind of lusting after the Jedi, and he finds a Jedi named Eldra Cadus. Definitely recommend checking this one out. If you're a fan of the Clone Wars, there's some Clone Wars characters who make their appearances in this comic. Definitely worth a read. Next we have is Star Wars Queen's Peril, written by E.K. Johnston. This book has yet to come out. It's coming out later this year. It's a prequel to her Queen's Shadow, which I will dive into later, and takes place a little bit after Phantom Menace. And that concludes the first slide. Not too much stuff going on in this period in the Star Wars timeline, just a few stories. The next slide that we're going to cover is a bunch more stuff. Next we have is Obi-Wan and Anakin, a 5-issue mini comic book series written by Charles Soule. I really love this comic. It has great art, and Anakin is around 12 years old, and he maybe wants to leave the Jedi Order, and then by the end he comes back to Obi-Wan. Definitely recommend checking that one out. Queen's Shadow is a novel written by E.K. Johnston. It's about Padme becoming a senator for Naboo after her term as queen has ended, and that book takes place 28 BBY. So moving forward to all the way to the Clone Wars. After Attack of the Clones is a Mace Windu 5-issue miniseries comic book, and it stars a bunch of other Jedi, including Kit Fisto. Very cool story they're telling, and then it kind of ties in with another comic later down the road. I won't spoil anything, but if you're interested, give it a try. Now we are getting to some of my favorite stuff in all of the Star Wars canon, some of the next few stories coming up. Dark Disciple is a novel written by Christine Golden, and it stars Asajj Ventress and Quinlan Vos toward the end of the war. One of my top maybe 3 novels in canon. The story is just so amazing, and it finishes arcs that the Clone Wars couldn't finish when the Clone Wars got canceled, and they're not going to touch these arcs or storylines in the new episodes, so that's the only way to know what happens is to read this book. And that gets us to Son of Dathomir, which is another great comic book. It's only 4 issues. It would have been Clone Wars episodes just like Dark Disciple, and it shows you how Maul escaped Palpatine after he was captured at the end of Season 5. So this is going to take place before the new episodes in Season 7. So we're getting 4 Maul episodes in the new season, and they'll probably mention or call back to events that happen in this comic book. Definitely worth the read. We have arrived at the end of the Republic. The Empire is near. Order 66 is here. Kanan the Last Padawan is a great 12-issue miniseries comic book. It's one of my favorites in the canon, and it tells you how Caleb Dume, aka Kanan Jarrus from Star Wars Rebels, survives Order 66. And Darth Vader, the Darth Vader series from 2017, written by Charles Soule, is probably one of my favorite comic book series in the whole Star Wars canon, and it takes place right after he screams the no in Revenge of the Sith. I would say these 2 are definitely must-reads. Darth Vader is probably one of my favorite things in the new canon. The first of the final 2 stories that I will be covering in today's video is Catalyst, a Rogue One novel written by James Luceno. It takes place around 22 BBY all the way through 17 BBY, and then leads into the beginning of Rogue One, starring Galen Erso and his family secretly building the Death Star without knowing it. And then in 18 BBY, about a year after Order 66, we get Ahsoka's novel written by E.K. Johnston, and we see some of the Siege of Mandalore that we'll see in Season 7 of Clone Wars, and we also see how she gets her white lightsabers that we see her wield in Rebels. That concludes today's video. I just want to thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, it's going to help out the channel, and then definitely stay tuned for our next video, which will be covering the next 15 years of galactic history, the reign of the Galactic Empire. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a good one.